Well, Rubie was born 4 weeks early. She was a crier, yeah. Compared to our firstborn Alfie, he was really quite quiet, but Rubie did cry quite a lot for her food, especially. She would wake up and be quite demanding. But she was, yeah, beautiful, healthy. Only £5.5, so quite small. Yeah, little Dot we used to call her.
Or Munchkin.
Or Munchkin, yes, yeah. I took Rubie to see the doctor because we thought she had a cold. She'd gone off her food a bit, and that was unusual because she was such a cry when she wanted her food. She was quiet, a little bit sniffly, so I thought I'd better just get her checked out. So I took her to the doctor on the Thursday morning, and he agreed, thought, yeah, she's got a bit of a cold, keep her upright, give her lots of cuddles, so if she's got any phlegm it'll just drain down. I remember telling the girls at work, oh, I've got to go home and have lots of cuddles, so I'm really looking forward to that. And we brought her home. She was still off her food, but she'd had a little bit. And we went to bed as normal that night, about 10 o'clock, but we popped Rubie in a car seat because the doctor had suggested that maybe that would be the best thing for her if she had a bit of a cold, so that she didn't choke on her phlegm or anything like that. So she was next to the bed in her car seat with a blanket on, and we went to sleep as normal, and then at 17 minutes past 4 I woke with a jolt and thought, so Rubie's not woken me up. She'd have woken me by now, something's wrong. And I shouted to Russ, she's not woken up. And I looked down at the car seat, and she was breathing funny. It was like a grunt more than a breath. I got straight on the phone to dial 999, and Russ got her straight out of the car seat. I got straight through to the ambulance service, and I remember Russ had run downstairs with Rubie, and the ambulance man said, no, you need to be with her. So I had to run downstairs as well. But Russ had run out to get her a bit of cold air to try and see if that would jolt her away.
I gave her mouth to mouth as well, but it just wasn't working. She was very grey as well. Her skin was very grey.
Quite floppy.
Yeah.
Very floppy. And we brought her back in the house, and the fast responder turned up very quickly. First. Yeah, very, very quickly. He got some oxygen on her, laid her on the settee next door in the kitchen area, and he got me to help him put on little monitors on her body. I suppose that was his way of getting me something to do. In the back of my mind we were worried because Alfie was still in bed upstairs, but he slept through, bless him. He did. And then the ambulance turned up very quickly, and at that point they thought her blood sugars were low, and I remember the ambulance man saying to me that I don't want to panic you, but we need to go as soon as possible, so if you could just get what you need together now. When he said that, it was suddenly you just don't know what to do. You know you've got to get your things ready, but it's like autopilot, I suppose. I didn't get changed, I didn't do my hair. I remember I very quickly brushed my teeth and just got my handbag and was straight out the door. And Russ had to stay because Alfie was still here.
I telephoned my mum and dad to come and look after Alfie because he was due at nursery. I received a phone call from, I assume it was a sister, to say, don't panic, don't break the speed limit, but you need to get here. And when I arrived at the hospital, it seems quite ironic really, the machine to pay for the car park wasn't working. So I literally dashed into the reception area, said to the lady, I parked outside, I need to go, I'm leaving my car. And she just said, that's fine, go. When I arrived, I couldn't see Rubie because of the amount of bodies that were around her.
At that point, they didn't know what was wrong, but they didn't seem to be worried too much. They, because they were concentrating, I suppose, on what they were doing. The consultant and the nurses were very good. They explained everything to me as they were doing it, because I was allowed next to her all the time. They never took her away from me. They actually showed me to a room at one point that for families, and they said, this will be your room while Rubie's here. So I thought, I'm going to be here a little while, and it had a bed and an ensuite, and I thought, right, so this is my base, so I'm going to be here for a while with her. But so I didn't think at that point that it was really bad. I thought that they must have something in their minds and they must be able to do something about it. I heard them talking about insulin, because when Russ arrived, I said to him, they're talking about insulin, and he said, well, if she's diabetic, then that's something that we'll deal with. We'll get through it. We'll help her out. And at one point, everybody seemed to leave the room, and there was a nurse with Rubie, but everybody else had gone. So we thought, they're waiting for results, and they're going to get back to us. And then all of a sudden, the nurse looked over at us, and I could just tell in her face that something wasn't right. And then everybody came rushing back in. And then they had to do CPR on her. And they did bring her back for a short while. Just very short. And then she went again, and then they couldn't do any more. And they didn't know at that point why she died. He said, we suspect it could be meningitis, but we have to wait for some tests to come through to confirm that.
But she still had no rash, none of the common signs and symptoms, apart from the cold beforehand.
And I asked straight away, I said, my son's at nursery, will he be all right? Will the other children be all right? He said, yes. He said, don't worry about them, they'll be fine.
And that was my first thought, how the hell do I tell a 3-year-old his sister's not coming back? That was my first thought. And then it turned to anger, which is I'm told is a response that you get.
Russ left the room, stormed out the room.
The consultant followed
him.
He did follow me, and he said, look, and he was heartbroken. And you know that it's not a common occurrence when a consultant who's dealt with children for 30 odd years. So it sounds cruel, but they do develop a thick skin. But when he's heartbroken, he's crying his heart out in front of you. What can you do?
He never left us. He was meant to go home at 8 o'clock that morning. Rubie died at 9, and he never left us till we went home at 3 in the afternoon. He was with us all the time and around so that we could speak to him if we needed to. He was so kind.
And he did come in a relative's room and explain to us, right from when Rubie arrived at hospital to the minute she died, exactly what had gone on. We obviously weren't listening. He's saying these words, it's only when you get home later. But yeah, I arrived in a hurry and we walked out with a cardboard box.
They gave us a memory box.
Which you're walking down a corridor just in like a zombie. We have been back to see the consultant since, and actually he said he got a parking ticket that day. The first time he'd ever got one, because he'd stayed so long, and he looked at it and thought, do you know what, I don't care, because he'd done his job.
Can I ask you, how did you explain that whole thing to Alfie, the whole situation?
We actually drove straight from the hospital to nursery to pick him up.
Alfie.
We rang beforehand.
I rang them on the way to say, something's happened, we need to pick Alfie up early. Are we okay to do that? She said, yes, of course. I said, I'll explain as soon as we get there. And we went straight into the office at nursery together. And we told them what had happened. And we said, we're not sure whether to tell Alfie here in this environment or whether to take him home. and tell him we don't know what to do. And she was so kind, the lady that runs the nursery, the manager, because she said, I don't know either, but if you tell him here, then he'll always have that association with here. And she said maybe in the comfort of his own home, with just you two, that might be better. And that helped us make that decision. And we were just driving home, and I knew that my parents were waiting here for us. They hadn't made it to the hospital before we left, but they were waiting outside here, and I had to ring them and say, I'm so sorry, but could you please just drive around a bit and come back in 10 minutes or so, because we want to get Alfie in the house without seeing you, so that we can explain to him, just the two of us. And we brought him into the house, we sat him on the sofa next door, and because we had the memory box from the hospital, that helped us, because inside was a teddy bear, and in the boxes there were 2 teddy bears. One we left for Rubie, for her to cuddle, and one we had for Alfie. So we said, Rubie's gone, she won't be coming back, but she's left you this teddy to cuddle when you need to, when you feel sad. She's going to be a star in the sky.
And he's kept him ever since. Charlie Bear.
Charlie Bear, we called him Charlie. We said, what do you want to call him? He said Charlie. And he does, when he feels sad about Rubie, he always asks for Charlie and gives him a cuddle. So for us, that was how we were able to tell him. The day after it happened, we were just numb.
Numb.
Yeah, numb.
For a long time. Just, we've always said if we didn't have Alfie, those blinds would have been shut and that would have been it, game over. Because it just didn't have any meaning.
It's just so hard to explain that.
You're angry.
Your family are here and your family want to support you, but then you just wanted to be on your own. We had people come and just visit us that day, the day after, and just for them to come and surprise us by turning up meant so much to us, because there was no way on this earth we would have ever asked anybody to come round, because we just wanted to be on our own, but because they turned up, and that made such a difference, so we didn't feel alone.
I'm not going to lie, I did have suicidal thoughts, but I didn't do it because we have Alfie. And that, to me, that's a selfish thing to do, because Alfie would have been left on his own with his mother. And I'm not a selfish person, but I did have those thoughts initially. But obviously there's a reason why I didn't do that.
After we lost Rubie, and we sort of muddled through the first few days, it suddenly becomes apparent that you're kind of on your own, because people have to go back to their own jobs, their own lives. You have to start planning a funeral for your child that you've never ever thought that would ever happen, and you don't know where to start. I remember being in the hospital straight after Rubie had died, and they said, which undertakers do you want to use? And we were like, oh my God, who are the undertakers in town? I don't know who they are, and you just suddenly, we just chose one that we could remember seeing. Russ's father got in touch with them after, and they were very, very kind. They let us see Rubie as often as we needed to. They came to see us at home to arrange how we wanted to do the funeral, what we wanted to do, and it is a decision that you never ever want to have to make as a parent. And you're trying to do all this while life still goes on around you. You feel like life should stop, that everybody around you should just stop what they're doing. This is something that's happened that's good. why are things still happening? So it's a very emotional, tiring time, and you're conscious that the decisions that you're making for your daughter's funeral are the decisions that you're going to have to live with for the rest of your life. And is it the right one at the time? So you're constantly questioning what you're doing. Is it the right thing? Is it the wrong thing? And nobody can really help you with that, because they've never been through it. They don't know what the answer is. So as a couple, we had to make a lot of decisions, and I think our strength at that time as a couple came through because we agreed with the decisions that we were making. And I remember somebody saying to us once, "Oh, it's taken ages to sort the funeral. Normally they're done by now." But I said that doesn't work in this scenario because older people generally have made some plans with their family on how they want to be buried and what music they want and things. We've not even, we don't know Rubie enough to know what sort of music she would have liked, or what she thought was the nicest song. She wasn't old enough to sing, so what do you choose? Those first few weeks were horrendous in trying to make decisions that you felt were the right ones.
I think the music was the hardest point. So we sat here one evening listening to song after song after song, and even now I don't have the radio on in the car. Not because I'm frightened that song's going to come on, because it's highly unlikely, but I just can't listen to music anymore. But yeah, choosing songs for a funeral it's just wrong, doing it for your child. Like Kerry says, we will never know what music she would have been into. So what do you choose?
About 4 weeks after we lost Rubie, I think, was when Steve came to see us from Meningitis Now. And we have to say that we actually felt honoured that somebody such a prominent figure in a charity would make the effort to come up all the way from Gloucestershire to come and see us. And yeah, we were quite gobsmacked, I suppose, weren't we, that he contacted us wanted to come and see us. He's such a lovely man and made us feel so at ease, and we were just talking to him like we would talk to anybody. It's a difficult thing to say, because he doesn't put himself on a pedestal at all, but in a way we had, from looking on the internet,
Definitely.
once we knew that it was linked to meningitis, we were and getting in touch with them, that he was the founder. So you kind of imagine that somebody like that is out of your reach. They're at the top of the train and everybody else is just falls in after, but he's not like that at all. And it suddenly became apparent in those first few times that we contacted Meningitis Now, how much of a family that they felt to us, that we could contact them at any time, that there was always somebody at the end of the phone. They had plenty of advice to give us, to help us out. And around 6 weeks after, the consultant from the hospital had got in touch with us as well, and asked us if we'd like to go back to see him to talk about everything that had happened that day. And we found, for ourselves, that helpful, because we had that time so that our minds were that little bit clearer, so we were able to take in a little bit more of what he was saying and make a bit more sense of that day that we were in the hospital. Once we'd been told that the doctors thought it was meningitis, we looked it straight up on the internet, and that was once you type in meningitis into Google, things come up, and Meningitis Now was one of the first charities that came up. and I think initially I looked at it for signs and symptoms to see if there was anything specific that as a mother I'd missed, and then from there you could see that there was signposts to how to access the helpline, how to access literature, if there was any other way that they could help. The website was very informative, and then we discussed that together. I think did I contact them first?
You did.
I think I contacted the helpline first, because I was struggling with how I was feeling, and I knew that they offered counselling as a service, so I rang the helpline first, and the lady that I spoke to was wonderful. Yeah, so helpful, and got the ball rolling for me.
Kerry had already had counselling for several months before our marriage broke down, and the decision was really made then. It was get counselling or you're going to be on your own. So the lady I spoke to on the end of that phone must have wondered what on earth she'd answered the phone to, because it was me babbling on, my wife's left me, I haven't seen my son, etc, etc, I need help, I need it now. But within about 3 days I got a letter through to say, we've arranged a counsellor, your first session is in a week. And from that point on I had 40 sessions with my counsellor, until the point where she said, Russ, you don't need to come to see me anymore. We've plateaued, we've reached a level where you don't need to drive and see me, we've discussed everything, I can see you've improved, but if you need to see me again, ring the charity or ring me and I'm here. And touch wood, I haven't since. But if I hadn't have done that, Lord knows where we'd be now. Probably living separately. I don't really want to think about it. But that was all provided by the charity.
I think what sparked Russ to choose the counselling was that I could see he was struggling with his emotions and I couldn't help him. I was having counselling myself, and we found through this experience that you spend a lot of time trying to get through the day just by yourself, and it's hard to support somebody else through the process, and I couldn't keep doing that. I didn't have the energy to support Russ as well as myself, and that's a horrible thing to say, but that's how it was. And our marriage was suffering because of it, and I'd mentioned to him on many an occasion, maybe you ought to sort counselling. No, I'm all right, I don't need it, I'm all right. But I could see that our marriage just was not going to survive this if something didn't change. And all credit to Russ, he understood when I explained that to him, that this marriage was not going to go anywhere unless something was done.
It's a typical man thing. We deal with the circumstances, we get angry, and then we just go numb, and then we do nothing about it. It's a typical bloke thing. I've spoken to other grieving fathers, it's the same process. But if I hadn't have got that help, as I say, I don't know where I would be now. Because you need to talk to somebody else rather than in your little bubble. It's alright talking to your wife, but if your wife can't deal with what's going on as well as your issues, you've got no hope. It's just at the end of a phone. All you've got to do is pick the phone up. But it's just making that initial step. When you do it, it's entirely up to you, because grief's a funny thing. I should have done it probably a month after we lost Rubie. But you don't realise, you just plod on with your daily life and it all becomes too much. And it's pointless fighting it, because you aren't going to win. You are not going to win that battle. I think for me, my counsellor broke everything down. The simplest thing she did was draw a diagram with Rubie in the centre and my life outside of that. Only I can go back into Rubie's world, but when I need to, I can do. Nobody else can. So for me, it's a sense of relief. You go there, tell them your problems over the last week or 2 weeks. They get resolved and you leave there thinking, I actually feel better now. but I know I'll be back in a fortnight because I'll need that help again.
I found for myself that that my counselling sort of helped me answer my own questions. I would talk to my counsellor about something, and then I would say, why am I feeling like that? Why? That's not logical. So I was able to talk like that out loud and then answer my own questions. And yeah, I found that's quite therapeutic then, because it sort of brings you back down to that new normality. You know, your life does have to carry on, whether you want it to or not. You know, there are things that you have to do, just in a different way now, and accepting that that you're different now is a big thing. You're not the person that you were before. The counselling helps you with that as well. Alfie, he's 6 now, and there was a point just after Christmas this year when he was talking about Rubie a lot and crying about her a lot. We had seen that on Meningitis now, that on their website, that they did offer art therapy to children, and you know, it's very good because it states, you know, that it doesn't have to happen in the aftermath of the death. It can happen at any time later on in their lives. So, you know, this was nearly 3 years later, and we could see that maybe Alfie needed some help as well. So he'd had a short burst of art therapy through a project that they do at his school, but he could only have the 6 sessions with them, and in those 6 sessions he did his drawings, and we could see that was helping him, but we felt that wasn't quite long enough, that he still needed that bit extra. So we'd been down to the head office at Meningitis now at Easter, and we'd spoken about it there, and you know, they said, yeah, we'll look into something in your area, you know, we'll be in touch and let you know. And yeah, we got a letter through to say that, you know, Alfie was been, you know, put forward to have this art therapy. He sees a lovely lady, and it's funny because the art therapy that they do isn't just all drawing. He plays with Lego, he plays with sand. He came out the other week saying, "Mummy, I'm a dominoes champion," because they were playing dominoes together. He does all sorts of things. She has a special room for children. She took me in the first day to show me what they have and what they do, and he comes out with a big smile on his face. And I have to say that since he's been having these sessions, he does still talk about Rubie, and he does have a little cry now and then, but nowhere as much as he was before they started. So it is definitely a beneficial thing for him as well. Okay, so we're now just over 3 years after we lost Rubie, and they've been very long, strange, hard 3 years. Earlier this year I felt that I was able to get by on a daily basis better than I had done before, and then this summer I seem to have taken a step backwards. Can't put my finger on it, don't know why. We passed her 3rd birthday and the 3rd anniversary of her death, and it seems to have just appeared out of nowhere that I feel like I've gone backwards again, and I've been in touch with my counsellor myself, because like Russ's counsellor, she said, if you ever need me, you know, don't hesitate, just get back in touch. I'm off work again at the moment, have been for a couple of weeks because I'm struggling, but they've been very kind and compassionate to me, and I don't know how long this will take or anything, but you know, I just deal with it on a daily basis.
We both do, though.
Yes.
You can't really look much further ahead. It's hard because the children want to do things. They want to go to theme parks, and go to football, and it's hard to plan that far because you just don't know how you're going to be feeling. It was stressed to us by our counsellors that you will be up and down. There'll be days where you are on the floor, you don't want to do anything, and there'll be other days where you think, actually, I can take the dog for a walk today. I can go to the shop.
Yeah.
With the fundraising, I did throw myself into it a bit hard to begin with, because we were doing the walk, we were doing the raffle, and it does take a lot out of you. It is draining, because it's not just turn up on the day, do it, go home. It's all the planning beforehand.
When we lost Rubie, we were talking about doing something that we could remember her by, with and involving friends and family, because we just don't want her to ever be forgotten. When Steve had come to visit, he was talking about the walks that he does, and we suddenly thought, well, it doesn't have to be around here. We could do a walk somewhere that's a bit more accessible for other members of the family, because our family aren't originally from round here.
It's an emotional day, but at the end of it, it's an achievement.
Yeah, and it's something that we can do as a family and with the children. For us, it's nice to have that bit of social connection as well. People join us who've lost loved ones in whatever shape or form, and they've said to us afterwards, thank you, because you've got us out of the house that we might not otherwise have done, and we've met people and we've made some lovely friends through it.
Definitely.
Yeah, so it's definitely been a good thing for us to do.
It's all about just raising awareness. The fun side is an added bonus on that. It's, if 50 odd people are walking in bright orange, you're not going to miss us.
Yeah. Everybody that makes a donation in that bucket gets the symptoms card put in the wallet. Russ will say, "Well, you've got your wallet out, put the symptoms card back in it." So they all get something to make them aware that it isn't just children that this happens to. It could happen to you.
And even the ice cream van that comes every year, he wants to wear an orange t-shirt. So
there's a lot of emotions still about, and there will be for. Well, I don't know if they'll be here forever or if eventually they'll ease a bit. I don't know. Some days I wake up feeling guilty. Some days I wake up feeling happy that I met Rubie. Some days I wake up feeling angry that, why did she have to go? So yeah, it's just a constant battle with your emotions, and that never goes away. That's always there. But by having counselling, by talking to each other, by doing fundraising, it just, it just helps you somehow. Can't explain how it helps, but it does. Yeah.
we're very lucky that we have the Meningitis Now family, our own family, and the friends we have.
Yes, we are.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much, guys.
Okay.